What's going on, guys? Richie Miller here. I'm coming at you with a video on vocal compression. So stay tuned, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and let's get it.
I can't find the words to say, so I won't speak it all. I've been trying to climb, but I don't sleep at all.
Alright, y'all, check it out. So I got the song loaded up here, and a couple y'all been asking me, like, hey, Rich, man, like, where do I get started with compression? And you know, compression's a big topic, so we're just gonna narrow it down today just for vocal compression, and then in future videos we can step that up and we can check out, you know, mixed bus compression, parallel compression, and such things like that. When we talk about compression, you know, seems like a lot of people get confused, like what even is a compressor supposed to be doing? Why do we need compression? If you watch this video, you're gonna understand why we compress vocals, you know, how we can obtain a quality, professional sounding compression on our tracks. So check it out. Alright, cool. So I'm gonna play you the track real quick so you can hear what I'm working with.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.
Alright, yo, and let's break it down. So why do we need compression? When we record vocals, our vocals have a lot of dynamic range. So they can be very quiet at times, they can be very loud at times. So the purpose of my first compressor on this track is to tame those dynamics. Instead of it having a lot of peaks and it going up and down a lot, we kind of want to level it out. So let's take a look at what it sounds like before. We can check the meters and see where our vocal is sitting, and then after this compression we can see what it does.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.
Alright, so without any compression, you can see my RMS values are kind of hitting -24 at some points on each of those kind of like first words. Time, come, I'm definitely stressing those syllables, and you can see that those are the loudest part of this vocal. Of course, I'm already compressing on the way in, so this is already tamed a little bit. This would be much more drastic if I hadn't been compressing on the way in. For those of you interested, I'm using a LA 610 MK2 preamp compressor as my outboard processing. So keep that in mind, that my vocals are already a little bit tamed on the way in, just to give it a little bit more warmth and tame those dynamics from the start. But if they hadn't been, those syllables would have been even more pronounced. So I'm using here the R comp from Waves. You can peep it. We're at a 3 ratio. You want sort of a fast attack, so right after the transient of your vocal hits, it's grabbing on. In this release, we kind of wanted to see, we'll play around with it, we'll see how the compressor's reacting and how we kind of want that to kind of be pumping in the track. And let's take a look.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.
Now I already had this set, but you can take a look at what it did. So after I put the compressor on there, my RMS values kind of went down to -30, and they're a little bit more consistent. So instead of it jumping around all the time, we're now at a consistent kind of level throughout the entire vocal, and that's what this first compressor, that's what you want to try to obtain. I mean, that's the purpose of it, to make sure like I'm not being lost anytime in the mix. I'm not going back and forth in and out like I'm coming to and from the mic. It's actually all just right there. It's all audible. You're not struggling to listen to any of the parts of the song.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting
I mean, and that's like the main part of like compression. Like that's like the basics. Like we have a signal that's jumping around in volumes, and we want to even it out, and that's what it's for. That's what it does. And you can see that with this compressor, the R comp, that's what I'm getting from it. On this particular track, I got more than one compressor on here. We're going from the just going. I'm encountering a bug. Did you guys see how I just potatoed out? Like, I really was clicking on and off, and I was like wondering why my plugins were showing. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so that's the basics of the compressor. You can see that you know, my release isn't too heavy, so I'm not like just knocking it down and it's not just staying down the entire time, because that would defeat the purpose, right? Because all of a sudden, once the loudest track hits, everything else gets knocked down, and it will continue to get knocked down even when the quieter parts of the track are still being compressed, so that would defeat the purpose. So we got some little bit of movement, so every time the loudest part hits, it gets knocked down, it comes back up for the quiet parts, right? Cool. Boom, done. I mean, that's all you need to know. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of multi-band compression while we're at it. And let's kind of like separate these two ideas, right? So we got the compression and it's taming our dynamics, and now we got multi-band compression. Why would we use multi-band compression, guys? That's a great question. And the answer to that question is really because we like the sound of it. Does it have the same purpose as our other compressor, our main compressor? Nah, it doesn't. Not at all. Think of this more like an EQ. This is more like, now we have control on the C4. I'm using the Wave C4 multi-band compressor. We're not taming down the dynamics as much. We're really controlling each band, how loud it's going to be, right? So you can see my kind of curve here. The bass is a little bit lower. Then we go up to the mid-range, it's a little bit higher. And as we get higher up in the frequencies, it gets a little bit louder. That means the bass is going to be compressed a little bit more, so it's going to be knocked down. And as we get higher up, it's going to be less knocked down. So we can see like it's almost like an EQ. Think of it like an EQ, like a dynamic EQ. And the reason I would maybe try this on your vocals is because when you have a compressor doing your EQing for you, it's moving up and down. It's giving you a little bit of ear candy. It's not grasping the entire time, but it's kind of keeping everything frequency-wise at a similar plane. So now like our frequencies are balanced. And that can have a cool effect. And as it goes up and down, it's a little bit more dynamic than the EQ. It's a little bit more, it doesn't sound quite the same. So let's take a look on how this sounds. We'll keep the compressor on, and we'll plug in the C4, and we'll see what it's doing to us.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest.
Cool. So you can see it's not really doing too much to dynamics there. If we were to peep the meters.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to.
Is relatively similar, but our EQ is a little bit shifted now, and we're doing that dynamically, so it kind of catches your ear a little bit more than the EQ would. And that's what multi-band compression is. If you think of multi-band compression, think of a dynamic EQ. Don't think of like we're going to use this to compress our dynamics as much as it is an EQ for us. And that's that. I mean, that's a little bit of multi-band compression. Let's take a look at the last plugin in my chain. It's going to be the RVox by Waves. I have it set to a -12 comp. You can see that this is a fixed ratio compressor. There's only one kind of you can think of this this is a fixed ratio compressor. This is only one. What do you call this? Oh my god. It has one knob you can turn or thing. So it's only given this one option, you know what I'm saying? And this is what this is going to do. Basically, it has already makeup gain kind of built into it. So it's going to automatically gain up our vocals. So I'm using this really for a little bit more compression, a tad bit more. It's not too much. You'll see like on the meters there, it's not really compressing too much, but it is going to raise the overall output level of the vocal substantially, because it's going to just bring it up to 0 here. And let's hear how that sounds. You could also just use the makeup gain on here, and just bring up the vocal. I kind of like using these in conjunction. A little compression in stages. You hear like a lot of people will talk about compression in stages, and that's what this is. We're compressing in stages. We have this one, we have this one, and we are going in this one. And you can get cool and good positive results by doing that. So let's hear what the RVox is doing.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.
Alright, cool. I mean, we'll just see like it's compressing a little bit. Let's take a look at the plugin itself actually.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you.
Getting a little bit of gain reduction here, and you can see our levels just boosted way up. And now we're just present. We're way present in the mix. We're at an optimal level. Our dynamics are tamed. The track frequency wise is a little bit more balanced with the multi-band compression. And there you go. You can see that I have an EQ before I go into my compression, and that's definitely something you'll want to mess with. I didn't want, after having all these compression, before all this compression, I wanted to take out all the bass because I didn't want to have the sub of my vocals boosted up before I took it down, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of wanted to treat my vocal before that I ran it into all these compressors, and that's what this is for. So I'm taking all the sub out below 92-ish. I probably might even bump that up, play around with that range to see where it's affecting the vocal and how much I want that to roll off at the end. And I'm giving a little bit of a shine at above 8K, like 10K, 12K-ish. And I'm taking a little bit of mud out, and that's kind of like my EQ. Let's take a look how that sounds with everything else on it.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time.
You can hear it definitely like thinned out the vocal a little bit. And depending on these settings, you know, it's gonna thin it out, you know, based on how you set it. So you gotta be kind of very careful with this and tweak it to how you want it. Some vocals sound better with more of the bass rolled off. Some sound better with more of a mid-range boost. Some sound better with a lot of top end, depending on your mic. You're kind of just doing this to taste here. But definitely this is kind of something I would start with, something that maybe looks a little bit like this. And you can kind of just play around. Like, do you want more presence? If you want more presence in the mix, maybe you have a lot of instruments, a lot of stuff like that. You want to boost this up quite a bit around here.
I've been waiting for the longest time.
Say your mic is a little bit dull and you want a lot more like top end like air.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.
You want to boost that up quite a bit. I mean, those are like based on how the track is, based on how your mic is, and you want to kind of mess with that case by case, you know. And that's just a little bit of the EQ. I just want to show you that because that's quite important that I have that here before all this compression. You can also see that I'm using this RDSer before I EQ, and that's really just to I really was just playing around with this. It's not doing anything too drastic here, but it is like taking out a frequency. I thought my voice was a little bit harsh, and it's just dumbing it down a little bit.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you.
You can see like on the syllables, it's just attenuating it a little bit. I mean, and that's all that. So don't worry about this too much, but you can use the de-esser before your chain. And the purpose of this is not really to tame my S's. It's really just to kind of pick some harsh frequencies and kind of take them down before I hit my compressors. Last thing I have on here is a de-esser. And this is really my main de-esser. This is really just taking out the S's. I don't know if I even have any in this line, but
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.
It's really key that you guys are de-essing your vocals. I hate the way S's sound, and if people compress the crap out of the vocals and they don't de-ess, like it doesn't sound good at all. You hear really harsh sibilants and sibilants. You'll hear really harsh sibilants. It does not sound good. It's not pleasant. So make sure you got a de-esser on there. F is that? Hold on. Alright guys, and that's basically it. I mean, those are little compression rundowns. We're also going to go over a little bit of parallel compression, just to get you guys warmed up to what that is doing and how we can use that. Of course, you don't need to use these compressors. I quite like the way they sound, and they're very just easy for me to use. I don't have to think about it too much. And that's just kind of based on what I'm using. But you know, there's a lot of great compressors out there for vocals. You can check out in Waves. There's the CLA series. You got the CLA 2A, the CLA 76. I've definitely used those two. You can use your stock compressor. You can use really whatever you got, but the idea is all the same, and this is what I'm using. So I think I get good results off of this, and I'm gonna stick with it. Lastly, let's just check out parallel compression real quick before we end this, and I will show you what parallel compression can do for you in vocals. And there's a few different kind of reasons. Maybe like I want to say like two main reasons you might want to parallel compress your vocals. And this one is I'm using the DBX 160 here. There's a plugin and a piece of hardware called a distressor, and what it does is it has a mode on there where you can do some very intense compression with a high ratio, and it just decimates kind of like the sound. And it really brings up like the beginning parts, like maybe the parts that are really quiet, like your breathiness and like the little, I don't even know how to describe it. You can kind of hear like the voice coming out of your vocal box. It just brings it out, and you can blend that in. So I'm actually going to show you exactly what that sounds like. With this, I got the same effect with this DBX 160. You can use whatever you want. Basically, the idea is that you're just compressing the crap out of it, and you're getting those first, like, the first part of your vocal to stand out more.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting.
And you hear that the beginning of the I. Hold on. You see how it pops? Like if I solo this, it's really popping. I don't have this at full in my mix, but if I turn it down a little bit, you can hear this popping, the kind of first parts of the vocal.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the. I've been waiting.
And that's what I'm blending in. I wanted that little poppiness in the beginning. And that's what that's doing. You can also use parallel compression to kind of just there's many reasons you can use parallel compression. You guys can check it out and Google it and try to figure out why you might want to use it. For this, I wanted like a very poppy kind of type vocal. I wanted everything to be at a very similar level, and so that can also kind of boost like the RMS values and kind of keep everything even more even throughout your track. You can use it like that. You can use it to kind of enhance like the first parts of some words and make them pop like that and blend that in, and that's also a great effect. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm using it to kind of pop those first parts of the vocal and blend that in.
I've been waiting.
And I quite like how that sounded, so I kept it. And then yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, that covers pretty much everything for vocal compression. Of course, I'll post another video where we can kind of go over mixed bus compression. We can go over bus compression in general, why we might use compressors in other places of our mix, drum compression and stuff like that. But for vocal compression, that pretty much covers you guys. And make sure you go and research and kind of do and play around with this and see what kind of results you can get. And if you can get something sounding professional, you guys can go and try out this chain that I'm using here, and you guys should be able to get some pretty good results off it. So yeah, this track is going to be on, once I'm done with it, it's going to be on my upcoming album. I'm not going to drop the name yet, but y'all should stay tuned because I'm working on a whole nother album It's gonna be pretty interesting. It's gonna be this kind of hip hop, future bass hybrid. So I hope y'all enjoy that. I'll drop the name and the artwork once I'm further along with all the tracks. And yeah, hope you guys are having a great night. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on vocal compression. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you drop a like and subscribe on my channel and support me out a little bit. That'd be greatly appreciated. Boom! Let's get it.
I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me. I've been waiting for the longest time for you to come to me.